Welcome to Bears Royal Guys. Please support me by subscribing and getting me to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. NFL coaches are quietly begging their front office to intervene after a 309-pound undrafted anomaly began tearing through interior offensive lines, turning routine camp drills into a highlight reel of sheer physical domination. Standing at a massive weight, yet moving with the explosive, razor-thin reaction time of a first-round edge rusher, Jaden Loving generates a terrifying level of kinetic force that leverages raw biomechanics to completely dismantle 310-pound guards before they even set their feet. Scouts and analytics algorithms across the league are now facing intense internal fallout for somehow missing an interior menace whose impossible first-step acceleration was quietly flagged by advanced tracking data all along. Today, we step into the film room to break down the exact physical exploit causing pure chaos in camp, why rival personnel departments are panicking over this catastrophic scouting failure, and how this overlooked giant is about to radically disrupt sub-packages across the entire NFC North. The dynamic playing out on the practice field isn't just standard summer competition, it is a full-blown existential crisis for the offensive line room when a 300-plus-pound defensive tackle fires off the line of scrimmage with the rapid latency typically reserved for elite cornerbacks. Standard pass protection sets fall apart in a fraction of a second. Video footage leaking out of early team sessions shows veteran interior linemen getting driven straight back into the quarterback's lap before they can even complete their initial set points. The violent impact of Loving's initial punch has forced positional coaches to pull referees aside, begging for altered tempos or restricted contact just to keep their starters healthy before preseason action even begins. What makes this situation so alarming for opposing defensive coordinators is the sheer absurdity of how Loving ended up here in the first place. Over 7 rounds of the NFL draft, 257 distinct picks were announced, and 32 separate front offices repeatedly passed on a player currently controlling the trenches against elite competition. The draft industrial complex spends hundreds of millions of dollars on human evaluation, biomechanical tracking, and psychological profiling, yet an interior pass rusher possessing premier physical traits slipped through every single safety net. It creates an immediate uncomfortable tension. Either the evaluators were completely blind, or Loving represents a fundamental shift in how interior bursts must be evaluated. Watching Loving navigate individual drills reveals an unsettling truth about modern trench warfare. Most interior defensive linemen at his weight class are space eaters designed to absorb double teams, plug running lanes, and grind out dirty work in low-profile situations. Loving rejects that entire structural philosophy by attacking the A-gap with the explicit intent to destroy the pocket from the inside out. His center of gravity remains unnaturally low, while his upper body delivers a jarring, violent shock to the chest plates of unsuspecting guards, instantly destroying their structural leverage before they can establish anchor points. As the camp days stack up, the atmosphere surrounding the field has shifted from mild curiosity to genuine intrigue among beat writers and staff members alike. Teammates on the offensive side of the ball glance nervously at the rotational charts, fully aware that lining up across from this undrafted powerhouse means risking complete humiliation on film. The sheer dominance displayed in these early reps raises uncomfortable questions about the blind spots present in traditional collegiate scouting metrics. Every repetition Loving takes seems to chip away at the conventional wisdom governing draft night expectations. Front office personnel who prided themselves on exhaustive evaluation models are suddenly scrambling for answers, rewatching old college tape to figure out how such a dominant interior force could be available for nothing more than a post-draft phone call. The tension within the building is palpable, fueled by the realization that an unheralded rookie is currently rewriting the positional hierarchy through sheer physical force. This unfolding drama highlights a rare and fascinating anomaly in modern professional football. Jaden Loving isn't just winning reps, he is fundamentally disrupting the expected learning curve for rookie linemen by operating at a speed that defies his size. As practice sessions continue to intensify, the question hangs heavily over the entire league. How did every single scout miss a 300-pound interior rusher with first-round traits, and just how much damage will he inflict once the games actually count? To truly comprehend the destruction occurring in camp, one must dismantle the violent physics governing Jaden Loving's movement at the line of scrimmage. Biomechanically, an interior defensive tackle at 309 pounds shouldn't possess the kinematic profile Loving displays off the snap. Force generation in football is a matter of Newtonian physics, specifically work, vector angles, and ground reaction force. When a lineman fires out of his stance, the key determinant of early penetration is ankle flexion, paired with center of gravity leverage. Most 300-plus pound interior players carry higher pad levels and stiffer ankles, forcing them to absorb contact vertically before converting lateral weight into forward movement. Loving, conversely, explodes out of a three-point stance with a 10-yard split acceleration and low pad angle that mimics an elite edge rusher, generating maximum kinetic force directly into the A-gap before the opposing guard can even clear his kick step. The math behind his first step is staggering when placed alongside modern NFL performance standards. High-speed tracking technology measures latency, the fraction of a second between the movement of the football and the defender's initial foot striking the turf. Loving regularly generates a 1.64-second 10-yard split, a metric usually reserved for elite sub-260-pound edge defenders. When you multiply that rare velocity by a massive 309-pound frame, the resulting impact force at the point of attack creates an absolute nightmare for interior blockers. Standard guard technique relies on creating a stable base, absorb shock, transferring force through the hips, and anchoring into the turf. However, because Loving's initial burst establishes leverage lower than the guard's chest plate, he strikes before the offensive lineman can lock his hips or establish a solid base. This instantly turns the guard's own weight and momentum against him, driving him directly back into the pocket. Furthermore, Loving's ankle mobility allows him to maintain extreme flexibility while moving laterally. Instead of losing speed when changing direction or bending around a block, his lower joints function like compressed springs, storing and transferring kinetic energy through his core without compromising his forward trajectory. When evaluating first-round interior defensive tackle prospects, scouts obsess over these exact biomechanical markers: explosive broad jumps, extreme bench press output demonstrating upper body violence, and elite shuttle times that prove elite body control. Loving checks every single one of those athletic boxes, operating with a physical profile that strictly mirrors top 10 draft capital. By converting raw low-leverage physics into unadulterated power, Loving isn't just winning individual battles in the trench, he is exposing the fundamental physical limitations of standard modern pass protection. When you queue up the film room breakdown, Jaden Loving's progression from college standard to NFL caliber interior disruptor reveals a masterclass in explosive hand combat. Turning on his collegiate tape across his stops from Bethune-Cookman to Western Kentucky and ultimately into the ACC at Wake Forest, the foundation of his dominance becomes instantly clear. Loving doesn't simply rely on brute force to overpower single coverage. He deploys a lethal swim move and a bull rush that operate in perfect tandem. On his film, The moment an offensive lineman over-indexes to anchor against his initial push, Loving swiftly uses a violent, sweeping arm over the blocker's outside shoulder, clearing the guard's hands entirely without losing an inch of forward trajectory. Conversely, if a guard plays back on his heels anticipating the lateral bypass, Loving converts directly into a straight arm bull rush, planting his hands squarely under the shoulder pads and driving the pocket backward like a rolling sled. This exact technical versatility is why interior guards across the NFC North are in immediate danger. Modern NFL interior pass protection has leaned heavily into passive mirroring sets, where guards are coached to stay patient, maintain wide bases, and catch oncoming rushes rather than striking proactively. Against average interior defensive tackles, this passive posture works adequately. However, against a low-leverage penetration threat like Loving, that technical passivity becomes an invitation to get dismantled. When a guard waits for Loving to make contact, his naturally low pad level allows him to win the leverage battle before the guard even initiates hand placement. Loving's film shows him repeatedly exploiting a specific flaw in modern, college-developed guards: the tendency to lean forward with their upper body while opening their hips too early. The second a guard lunges or overextends to counter Loving's initial burst, he is already caught out of position. Analyzing his practice reps with the Bears, this exact scenario plays out continuously during one-on-one trench drills. The film highlights how Loving's initial step forces the guard into an immediate recovery state. Instead of setting a clean pocket, the guard is forced to play catch-up, crossing his feet or throwing late hands, two cardinal sins against an interior rusher who thrives on rapid hand placement and secondary effort. By cracking the tape on his Wake Forest and Western Kentucky snaps, it becomes undeniable that Loving's college production wasn't an accident. It was the blueprint for an interior technique that systematically breaks down the precise fundamental flaws standard NFL guards rely on to survive. The answer to how a 300-pound interior wrecking ball bypassed 7 entire rounds of the NFL draft lies within the massive systemic failures of modern collegiate evaluation. Jaden Loving's trajectory wasn't a linear path through a high-profile Power 5 powerhouse. It was a chaotic 3-stop odyssey through the collegiate landscape. Starting at Bethune-Cookman, moving to Western Kentucky, and ultimately finishing his career at Wake Forest, Loving constantly changed systems, coaching staffs, and defensive schemes. Traditional automated scouting algorithms heavily penalize this level of roster movement. Predictive draft models rely on multi-year statistical consistency within a singular conference to project success, completely blinding evaluators to non-linear development curves. When a player jumps between drastically different levels of competition, traditional algorithms flag the variance as a risk factor, smoothing out explosive spikes in raw film evaluation and effectively burying the prospect underneath layers of artificial statistical noise. While rival front offices were relying on standard collegiate box scores and rigid scouting software, Chicago's personnel department looked entirely past the traditional evaluation criteria. Tracking technology used in high-level collegiate analytics monitors raw biomechanical output, peak acceleration, instantaneous velocity out of a three-point stance, and ground impact metrics measured in real time. The internal tracking data gathered on Loving revealed something extraordinary. His first step burst off the snap was generating a rate of initial velocity that didn't just rival Power 5 starters, it placed him in the 99th percentile of all interior defensive tackles entering the professional ranks. Chicago realized that Loving's modest sack totals were not a symptom of limited athletic capability, but rather the natural byproduct of constantly adapting to new defensive playbooks and schemes across multiple university transfers. The immediate aftermath of this realization has sent shockwaves through executive boardrooms across the league. Rival general managers and personnel directors who opted for safe, low-ceiling prospects in the 6th and 7th rounds are now facing intense internal friction as Loving continues to dominate in camp reps. For Chicago, securing an elite-tier athlete without spending a single draft selection represents an astronomical ROI, but for the other Tier 1 front offices, it stands as an embarrassing, catastrophic failure of their own internal scouting infrastructure. How an interior pass rusher, possessing premier physical traits and verified elite tracking metrics, could sit on the board for 257 picks without a single team taking a flyer is a question that will haunt draft rooms for seasons to come. As Loving transforms into a primary weapon during summer practices, the rest of the league is left staring at the undeniable reality of a major blind spot that cost them a game-changing interior defender. Projecting Jaden Loving's impact onto the regular season, Gridiron transforms him from a summer camp feel-good story into an active tactical equalizer for Chicago's defense. Modern defensive play calling is no longer defined by traditional base packages. Games are won and lost in third and long scenarios where passing down sub-packages take over the field. By plugging Loving's raw 309-pound frame and explosive low-leverage penetration into interior sub-packages, Chicago creates an immediate nightmare for opposing offensive coordinators. Pairing his unblockable first-step acceleration alongside perimeter edge rushers completely alters protection schemes, preventing quarterbacks from comfortably stepping up into the pocket to escape edge heat. Guarding against edge pressure usually requires sliding protection outward, but Loving's ability to collapse the pocket internally forces offensive lines to leave their guards on isolated islands, a scenario that inevitably leads to quick pressure and forced checkdowns. As roster cutdowns loom and game day active charts are finalized, Loving's unique athletic profile practically guarantees him a key role in the rotation, while traditional undrafted rookies often face uphill battles just to make the 53-man squad. Loving's specific ability to affect the passer from the 0 and 3 technique alignments secures his spot on the active game day roster. Realistic snap projections place him in an immediate 15 to 25 snap rotational capacity per game, specifically tailored to high-leverage third down situations and late fourth quarter obvious passing downs. In an era where keeping fresh defensive linemen on the field during the final drive determines victory or defeat, having an interior pass rusher who can instantly win his one-on-one reps off the snap gives Chicago a distinct late-game advantage over gassed offensive lines. The downstream effect across the NFC North will be felt immediately once division rivalries resume. Division foes built on heavy interior passing attacks will no longer have the luxury of slow-developing play-action concepts or deep dropbacks without dedicated double teams in the middle. Loving's sudden arrival proves that elite front office scouting isn't just about high-round splash picks, it is about uncovering asymmetric physical advantages hidden within overlooked players. As the regular season approaches, Chicago's defense stands ready to unleash this rare, undrafted anomaly, turning what started as a terrifying camp revelation into a full-scale disruptive force across the entire NFL.